Hey, welcome to A Good Problem to Have. I'm your host, Tyler Olson. Glad to have you here for part 3 of our 8-part series specifically designed for those of you that are transitioning from medical school to intern year. We're going to be talking about disability insurance, a little bit about term life insurance and umbrella insurance as well. But the disability is going to take the spotlight because it is super important for you doctors. A lot of doctors in training, they question why they need disability insurance right now. They don't have much income to protect anyway, because that's what disability insurance does. It protects your income, and you're only pulling in $4,000 a month. That's not much to speak of. As you'll soon see, that is not the point. The point is protecting your current state of health in the eyes of the insurance industry. It's like the reputation that you have. And of course, the reputation that we have with the insurance industry usually only comes under inspection when we're going through underwriting and applying for a policy. And that applies to life insurance as well. But with disability insurance, it is particularly nuanced because it will depend on your specialty. It will depend on health events in your life that you may not even think matter that much. You might think, I'm perfectly healthy. I can just wait until I'm getting closer to the end of training to get my policy. And in some situations, that might be a useful decision. I'll get into some scenarios. But in any event, it's a decision process that deserves your attention right now, even as you have not even yet begun intern year. The reason why you want to focus on it now, in order to protect your health record reputation with the insurance industry, is because if you get coverage now, even with the minimal income that you have, you'll be able to increase your coverage later on without having to go through medical underwriting later on, presuming you go about the process the right way. And there are a couple of avenues. The first question that you want to have answered is, where I matched, because now you all know where you've matched, does my program have a guaranteed standard issue disability insurance policy program attached to it? I am not talking about group disability insurance. This is not something that you're going to find in your employer handbook. This is something that the insurance agency that happens to have a relationship with your program has already made an arrangement with one, sometimes two different insurance companies so that they can offer something special called a guaranteed standard issue policy. We'll call it a GSI for the sake of this conversation. The reason it's so valuable is because if you have access to it, you can apply for disability insurance through this program, and you do not have to go through medical underwriting. So even if you did have something in your past that would make it difficult for you to get coverage or even impossible, having access to a GSI makes it possible. People ask, I'm healthy though. Why do I need a GSI? There are things that can be in your medical record, notes that your primary care doctor has written in the past, that can trip up an otherwise smooth sailing underwriting process. I've seen it dozens of times where doctors thought, I'm fine, and then they go through the medical underwriting process through a regular conventional policy, and they find out that no, they're not. Not that there's anything significantly wrong or dangerous about their health condition or their health that they didn't realize, although that is a possibility too, unfortunately. But I'm talking about doctors that feel fine. They thought that they knew everything about their medical record, but there's something that the disability insurance company that's reviewing it has decided is a risk. And then that leads to modifications. What that means is that you get less coverage, or you don't get coverage under certain circumstances. Sometimes the result is an outright denial. So if you are associated with a residency program that has a GSI, you should capture that coverage before you do anything else. there's a couple of things to keep in mind. One, if you were to go and try to apply for a regular conventional disability policy and you got denied, and then later went back to try to get the GSI, in most cases, you can now not access the GSI. That is the only condition under which you can't get a GSI policy, because you went ahead and you went and tried to get another policy, and now you're stuck. There are some exceptions. For example, if your residency program has a Guardian GSI policy, Guardian is one of the insurance companies, then you were to go and you applied for a conventional Guardian policy and you got denied, Guardian will make an exception and allow you into their GSI, even if you got denied by Guardian. But that's not the case for most people. A lot of times they're like, well, I applied with Mass Mutual, got denied. Guardian GSI? Nope. So you've got to be really careful how you step here. Another note, there are many, many disability insurance agencies that are playing in the physician space because they know how much you need disability insurance, and they're right. But they may lack the experience, and they may lack the professional relationships to access GSI policies, and so they have a choice to make. Do what's right for you, send you to another agent who can access the GSI, or, and this is what I'm warning you about, they see an opportunity to sell a policy to you anyway, and they'll say, you're perfectly healthy, you don't need the GSI. GSIs are more expensive. GSIs have more limitations. Lies. They're lying to you. Capture the GSI first, if you have one. Now, of course, it can be challenging to find out for sure if your program has a GSI. I invite you to to leave a comment on any of my posts. I'm posting shorts of these podcast videos on Twitter and TikTok, Instagram, and Blue Sky, and YouTube. Ask me. Tell me what your program is. I can find out for you. Now, here's another thing. If you whether or not you are able to access a GSI through your program, you do need to find a trustworthy agent that you can work with. I know several. Anybody who knows me knows that I've known Michael Relvis and Larry Keller for a long time, and they both do excellent work. They're not the same person, obviously, but boy, I'll tell you, they sure function in very similar ways. And I mean that in a good way. They're high quality work there. They repeatedly make sure that the best thing is done for their clients. I've seen countless times when they're like, yeah, the best thing to do is to have them go work with this other agency or whatever it happens to be. It pays to work with somebody that is more concerned about giving you the best advice possible and protecting their professional reputation over a sale, because it's not just about trying to sell you a conventional policy instead of a GSI. It goes deeper than that. There are important riders and distinctions between riders, like the future increase option rider versus the benefit increase rider. I'm saying these things to you, we're not going to go into the details of it now, but essentially those are two different riders that give you access to increasing coverage as your income goes up. But the future increase option rider usually costs something significant, and the benefit increase rider does not, or it costs less. That's not straight across the board, but there's a recent scenario I'm thinking of where it did make a difference, and the benefit increase rider didn't cost anything, and the future increase option rider cost several $100s per year. And the benefit increase rider It was perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. But you have to work with an agent that's willing to go into the minutia with you and educate you and help you to see what is the best choice. The commissions on the sale of disability insurance policies are not insignificant. I think they tend to be in the range of 40 to 60% of the first year's premium. And then every time you increase, it's going to re-up. Every time you increase coverage, that's going to change and increase your premium. Then they get that 40 to 60% of that next year's commission. And the ones who are skilled, highly knowledgeable, they're helping you. Of course, they deserve to be paid. But you have to understand that these incentives, they create an environment, an industry of agencies that are fraught with inappropriate sales. And so you see a lot of agencies jump into the fray and they're like, well, there's a lot of money to be made here. And they lack the experience and they're focused on the sale rather than you. And that's a problem. So you got to find yourself an agent that really knows what they're doing and they really are going to be careful about what advice they give to you. For the sake of clarity, I wanted to also make clear who the insurance companies are that are the best. Emeritus, Guardian, Mass Mutual, Principal, and the Standard. Those 5. Sometimes you'll hear people argue that the Northwestern Mutual disability insurance policy should be ranked up there. And as far as their true own occupation policy, that's the one you want, a true own occupation policy, is concerned, I don't disagree. It is a high quality policy. It's just that you're going into the wolf's den, so to speak. There are some good agents and advisors in the Northwestern Mutual community, but you might also very well be working with someone that's going to be pushing permanent life insurance, which is something that the far majority of people do not need. And so in order to access the Northwestern Mutual policy, you have to work with a Northwestern Mutual agent. And so you got to be very careful about that and make sure that if you do get a true own occupation policy with one of their agents, that you're going to have to stiff arm them or be prepared to when it comes to trying to sell you permanent life insurance. And it won't be just one time. You buy a term life policy from them, which is a better option. It's more cost effective, provides you coverage when your net worth is low, and you're going to increase coverage as your net worth grows, your need for it will diminish, and hence the usefulness of just a term or time frame in which you're covered. But in any event, a lot of times these sort of agents, they will come back to you every year and they'll say, hey, you could convert some of this term life to permanent life. Hey, you could convert some of this term life to permanent life. It can become frustrating and annoying. So I think it's personally better to work with an independent agent who can access all 5 of those companies that I mentioned. Now, outside of like choices, of course, cost is important to keep in mind. Disability insurance is not cheap. True own occupation policies, they're going to cost you anywhere from $110 to $200 per month. It's more expensive for women than men. And again, you're on a resident salary. You don't have a ton of money. So I say to do so when you can reasonably afford it. If you're really stuck and you have no savings or you're running in the red every month, I don't want to try to convince you that you just got to pile it on, put on another $200 a month, in the red. That may not be wise. Every situation is a little bit different. But do make a plan to get it as soon as you reasonably can. I will say too, if your program has a GSI, you can reasonably expect that it would stick around so that toward the end of training, you could access it. And usually after a few, 90 to 180 days after you've graduated training, you can still access that GSI. But the key is that GSI needs to continue to exist. And that means that the insurance agency that works with its clients, you and other doctors, and the insurance company have an agreement that they're going to continue to offer that GSI. it's not guaranteed to last forever for new policy owners. Now, once you have the GSI, of course, then you're locked in, and you've got it as long as you pay the premiums. The other insurances that you need to keep in mind are term life insurance and umbrella insurance. Umbrella insurance, really cheap. It's a way to add additional liability coverage on top of your renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance and your car insurance. Those former policies I just mentioned, they have limits. And as a doctor, you've got a bullseye on your back. So if you cause an accident, if someone injures himself on your property, it may be wise for you to get, no, it is wise for you to get umbrella coverage. And generally, it is cheaper. There are states, Florida comes to mind, where it's more expensive to get. But generally, I'm talking about like $200-$300 per year to get umbrella coverage. And then term life insurance, that's going to be a like who relies on your income question. So if you're single, maybe you don't need term life insurance right now. It's not a priority while you're in training. But again, coverage, getting coverage when you're healthy and younger is more beneficial than getting it later. So you have to weigh that decision relative to your cash flow. Life insurance, term life insurance is not as expensive as disability. You could probably get a $500,000 20-year term policy for like $30 a month. So it's it's something that needs to be considered at least. That's it for part 3 on insurance decisions for you new interns. Come back next week. We're going to be talking about employer benefits. Thanks for listening.